Alright guys, so my name's Melissa and I am doing another channel. I am like a major go-getter. I think this is like my fourth or fifth channel I am starting because I have so much to share, so much to give with other women. To other women. So basically you can follow me on my minimalist pro-lifer Melba May channel, where I stand up for the voiceless, those who have no voice, babies who are being aborted, and that is from a passion in my heart from a forced abortion as a kid. I have another channel, Melissa and Nutrition. I think that's what I called it, yeah. And then I have an organizing one I'm going to link onto here that talks specifically about organizing. But this channel is going to be mostly homemaking and why it's important for women to enjoy homemaking. I know this sounds really outdated, and I am somebody who works, so this is not a black and white thing. Many times in life, women do have to work, so I am not putting that down at all. I do not think this is a black and white issue. I think it really depends on a lot. But there is a beauty in homemaking that we don't talk about enough. we don't really give enough value to this job. I'm going to sit back a little here. It's one of the hardest working jobs, hardest working things that you will ever do is being a homemaker. I also have a channel about homeschooling and how I incorporated the homeschooling into homemaking to build my family. I have 5 sons. I lost one child to abortion, as I said, when I was a kid. So what is the role of a homemaker? And I think a lot of us, when we think of homemaking, we think of, having like a museum for a home. We think of everything being neat and tidy in its place. And that is wonderful to have. There is a place for that. But many times we can beat ourselves up as moms, especially with a lot of kids, and feel like, I don't know where my keys are. That is a huge struggle for me. Or where did I put this, or where did I put that? And we can really tear ourselves down. Homemaking is more than just having a clean home that's organized. And I have a cleaning channel I'll put down here too. And I will be getting onto this on the cleaning and tips for that too. But what homemaking is mostly about is building your family. That's what it's about. And I have a heart for the family. I really do. My husband is just decided to divorce, and that's really heartbreaking to me. But you can still move forward, and you can still build your home the best that you can with what life gives to you. So I've been married 31 years. I grew up with my husband since 2nd grade. So we'll see what happens here. But anyways, homemaking is building your family. It's building yourself. It's self-care. It's investing in yourself first. And I think the first thing I did when I decided to stay home was with my firstborn son. That was a huge decision I made. That was a major decision because I was raised to be a businesswoman. I had graduated early from high school. Then I went to college at Hester College, and the schools counsel you to know what you're going to do with your life, right? And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'm like, I'll just pick one. If I'm going to work, I might as well make money, right? So I went into court reporting, and I found that it wasn't for me, and I can explain that later in another video. And then I went into hairdressing school, tried that, and I was pregnant with my firstborn son and graduated while I was pregnant with him. And from there, when I found out we were having him, I was just like, wait a minute, I really want to be home with him. I heard, stories about all kinds of things. Like when you have your baby, if you have a cat, which at one point we did, the cat can be very jealous. And when I was pregnant, or close, well, I heard things like when you're pregnant, the cat is really jealous and just different things. And I felt very protective about being home with my son. So I decided to be home. And then what really, really kind of cemented this was seeing that oh, wait a minute, it's actually cheaper if I stay home, because if I work, I won't get Medicaid. Why would I not get Medicaid and get the whole labor for free, is what my thoughts were. And I'm so glad I did, because I had like 3 days in the hospital. My placenta started separating, and I think it was from, the previous abortion. And so there were some challenges there. And then I went on to have another hospital birth, and I stayed home. And then I had a home birth, and by then it's like, okay, 3 kids now. And I did do stuff on the side. I did like a newspaper route, and then my third son was allergic to the newspapers, so I couldn't do that. My first job after having my firstborn son was at a store down the road, but I missed him, so that wasn't working out. And it just kept pushing me toward home and homeschooling. So I'm going to talk about how being at home not only saves you a lot of money, but it helps you to build intimate relationships in your family. You have plenty of time with your kids. You're not having the tension of chaos and conflict in your relationships. And it also helps you later on, as we had 2 more home births. My husband had cancer, so that was very time consuming. For about 5 years, he had remission. So when those things pop up in life, it helps you have a cushion to be able to deal with things better too. And I think I'm also going to go with, not only is it healthy for kids to usually not be in a daycare when they're really little, especially when they're infants, they need to bond with their mom. They're 24/7, they need that. But even without homeschooling, it's just so healthy to have your kids with you when they are little, because you get so much bonding time with them. But the other thing too is, for us as women, it's very healthy, especially with our menstrual cycle, to be able to be homemaking. And if your husband provides enough money, it's very easy to stay home and bring beauty, which is another principle, into life with homemaking. If you don't have a lot of money, like we did not have much, my husband settled on a job that just really did not want to take care of its employees. It still doesn't. Very cheap company, and he stayed with them for his own reasons, but very cheap. And so it's got to come from something. And unfortunately, a lot of that did fall on me, without the responsibility being taken to be a little more motivated and work with a better job. But what I chose to do was use the resources, which I really have no loss. The resources actually helped us so much that we actually were able to get ahead of the game and continue to stay home. So I'm going to be talking about the natural cycles of women, and how it's, a job is so demanding on your body. Like, I was just serving and waitressing at a very high class restaurant. You do need to be in shape. I mean, you do need to, lose some weight and get going, because waitressing for many companies, especially this one, there was a lot of overwork. So that is something that you need to do. But your body, it catches up to you one way or another. Like, I had actually gotten a couple gray hairs at this place because of the stress level. And it's such a high stress level because of the lack of management there, that it really does something to your body, unless you take the time to have self-care, which I did. But with all that time of self-care, then work, self-care, and work didn't give me a lot of time to myself, as much as I'm used to, as much as I crave. And that's another thing you can do with homemaking. When I was first married, I didn't really have any hobbies. My husband had a lot of hobbies with his cars and stuff, and I remember feeling jealous of his car. I know that sounds stupid, but it wasn't the car, it was his time. And he wasn't really attentive when we were first married. He was more attentive to things, and that really used to bother me. But so I became someone that had to learn, a lot on my own, and I ended up developing a ton of hobbies. So that's something that I love to do. I love to have an inordinate amount of time to read, write, and take care of myself. So when you are homemaking, you have that time. You have time to add beauty and skills to your home. And I'm going to talk about just that woman's touch, on your home to help other mothers and other wives do certain things to serve your husband in the home. That is what I did. I was a very good wife after becoming a Christian. I didn't really have the foundation of being a really good wife before that. I had a grandmother who, with 10 kids, she had 10, which is wonderful, but then they had their marriage annulled. She was out with a lot of men, so I didn't have that foundation there. And then with all the chaos and stuff my mother put up with, she did a lot better than my grandmother, but it still wasn't there. So you want to be able to to work at your marriage. And, even if your husband doesn't want to, as a Christian wife, go to church with you and, follow Christ, you as a Christian woman can work on your marriage with a lot of books and work really hard at putting certain things in there, putting a lot of effort in, putting what you need to in there to be the backbone of your family, so to say. So I'm going to be talking about the principles that I built on. And the first principle, obviously, is building on the rock. Build on Christ. Build on your faith. If you do that, when the trials come and the storms, you're not going to have a lot of major problems as far as your whole house falling apart. If you can be the one who's staying on the rock, you're going to be okay one way or the other, no matter what happens in life. So I'm going to be talking about principles. There's another verse that I heard. I had been mentored by an older woman, and it says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain. So that's another scripture that talks about you can build, and we see people build houses all the time, and without a firm foundation, your house will fall. And there's another part to that verse. I'm trying to remember. This was so long ago. I believe it's in the Psalms. And unless the gatekeeper watches, something about the city's not safe. I'm going to have to look that up. But unless she had done a lesson years ago, this was a MOPS class, and I kept all her cassettes at that time of her lessons because I was so impressed. And it talked about back in the day, there were gatekeepers or people who stood on the walls of these buildings, and they would watch for enemies. And as soon as they would see one, they would know, obviously they need to protect their city. And they had these watchmen up on the towers who would watch over their cities. And the same thing we do as a woman with our home. We are the gatekeeper. We are the ones who watch the home, who sees what comes in, what's going out, and that is our responsibility. How much are we feeding our children? Are we having time with God with them? Are we teaching them verses? Are we bringing them to church? Are we teaching them lessons throughout the whole day? Are we instilling truth in them? This is what we want to do. And when they grow up, it's obviously their choice if they will follow the world or follow Christ. But you want to give them as strong as a foundation as possible. You do not have time to fool around. You don't have time to be in the world, basically. And not that all these things are wrong, but I didn't really have time to go to the movies. I didn't have time to go have a girls' night out. I was a mother now, so things were very different for me. When I was growing up with one of my cousins, we did go to, dance clubs, and we had fun, but we did not, as a mother, you mature and you are now a role model, and you have a responsibility not to do certain things in front of your kids. Like alcohol is one thing I hear people talk about a lot. That's something that I have chosen as a mother not to really participate in. I think I had maybe one drink for a celebration with my older son in the last 30 years. And even then I didn't really care for it, but that was a celebration with him. And even then, I'm just not a drinker. And there are verses in scripture that do warn women to be very careful about that they don't turn to alcohol for their comfort. in dealing with life, instead turning to Christ. So we have a lot to go over. I will be talking about homemaking and principles and how to run a home. And then I will have my specific links with specific housework, with organizing, cleaning, and other stuff. So you can follow me if you'd like. And I'm just starting this channel out today, 2023. And I am going forward looking to help families build. Thanks for joining me, guys.